there is something to be said about a good idea or a good couple of ideas that can be concisely presented in something that is digestible in an hour or two, and I think we've done a good job here. There's, I think, 4 good solid ideas in the book that people can read, they can take away, and I hope it helps them kind of place a new lens in the way they view the world. And I think we've been pretty successful.
Let's talk through those 4 big ideas. Let's start with the first one. What would you say one of the first big ideas is with the book?
Well, the first one is how we open the book. So Marx opens his book suggesting that the struggle of all of human history has been the struggle between the oppressor and the oppressed. And he just arbitrarily states that the new version of the oppressor and the oppressed is the propertied people, so the bourgeoisie, versus the unpropertied people, so the workers, the proletariat. And it's such a vague, arbitrary definition of rich versus poor, and what we sort of come out the gates with is no, the struggle has always existed amongst all sorts of different classes. I mean, the struggle exists between your morning self and your afternoon self, between what you want to do with work. It exists with your friends, your family, and everyone. So we suggest that there's probably 2 ideas here. One is that the struggle is between the collective and this sort of coercive nature of the madness of crowds, and the individual who wants to claim autonomy and be sovereign and assert his will. So that's kind of one axis of the struggle. And then the other one is what I would think is the deeper struggle in living life and attaining any form of wealth or resources, which is the choice between acquiring said resources through cooperative means or through coercive means, or another way to put that, through economic means, which is the cooperative method, or through political means, which is the coercive method. And I think that is sort of one of the first things we come out the gate with, is that's the real struggle. It's not about one group versus another. It's about, do you move forward in life by beating someone over the head and taking their stuff, or do you cooperate with them? And that's
so is that regardless of what other class they may be in? So he arbitrarily defines 2 different classes, rich and poor. Today, cultural Marxism says we're all pitted against each other, different races, sexes, genders, etc. But then are you saying that regardless of which class or which identity you fall within, you can still decide whether you want to be collaborative or coercive, if you want to work with each other or not?
Well, let's think about it. So, one of the beauties of economics is that historically, anthropologically, biologically speaking, we humans have always formed some sort of tribe, and we've got an in-group and an out-group. And traditionally, the way we've dealt with in-groups and out-groups is that we have quite animosity. We have enmity with people in the out-group, and we have some sort of homogeneity and, more communal relationship with people in the in-group. And you need that sort of variation because not everyone's the same. We have different values, we have different likes and desires, etc. Now, what economics allows us to do, what trade, what cooperation allows us to do, is we can actually maintain these in-groups, we can maintain some homogeneity, but we can cooperate, we can trade with people that we may not like, that we may not want to be in the same group with, and we can also live as more multidimensional beings, meaning that we can be part of all sorts of different groups, and when we need something from another group, exactly, when we need something from someone else, we just trade, we cooperate. And that's like a pillar of a functional civilization versus going and just taking other people's stuff because you think you deserve it.
Yeah, I have my friends I surf with, and that's a whole culture on its own. And if you're either in or you're out on that surf culture, that's pretty deep to get into that. And you're either on the outside or you're on the inside of that. But then I have different friends that I might go ride mountain bikes with, and then I have a different set of friends that I go ride dirt bikes with. They're a little bit more open, not as tight-knit as the surfer group, but they're a completely different group of people. But I want to align with the motocross people. I want to align with the surf people. Then I have my business friends. So we have the Bitcoin crowd, and I have all my Bitcoin people, and we'll go hang out with them. And those are just different groups, and I could align with any one of them, but I don't want to be static and stuck in any one of those groups either.
Yeah, totally.
Kind of like that, right?
I think so that malleability or that transmutability is important. And this is why identity politics doesn't work, because what happens is and this is probably another big idea of the book, and this is maybe not a unique idea, but it's that one must define an individual by their individual behavior, not the skin color, tone, or supposed group that they're in, and then blanket extend that to the individual themselves, because that, number one, it's unfair on the individual, but number two, it's just false. It's just not how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to explore how this fits into maybe some of the what I talk about on the radio, which is this decentralized revolution. So this is obviously it's a centralizing theory of Marxism, and I think we're pushing back on individualism, which is more of a decentralizing theory. So, Alex, one thing that I've seen, I just did this big video on my YouTube channel, and I talked about how these ESG narratives are nothing new, and how the attack we've seen on Sri Lanka with the farmers and fertilizer specifically in the farmland, and now it's in Holland, and now even Justin Trudeau in Canada, and it's the same thing. And then I showed how the same thing happened in Stalin when he attacked the farmers and took away their ability to grow food, and the same thing with Mao. And you always attack the farmers and take away their food, and then what happens? People starve to death. And I get all these comments, and they're saying, "Yeah, but you have a misunderstanding of socialism and communism. That you're talking about communism, you're not talking about socialism," and they want to go into that type of I'm like, look, man, communism, socialism, fascism, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same to me. Collectivism. I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, it's all a centralizing tendency. Now, you look at where does centralization work, and it's a function of scale. In the home, you have, the father is the centralizing force. He is the breadwinner, the prime property owner, and within his domain, he has the perfect right to tell his children, what to do, what they can't do, etc., particularly when they're growing up. Now, as the children become adults, the onus starts to fall on them to become the decision makers of their own lives, and then take their life outside of that domain, right? Now, centralization sort of implies that the constituents that you're managing don't have the maturity to make decisions on their own. And this is one of the big takeaways of whether it's socialism, communism, or all of them, that they're all predicated on this idea that without some sort of authority in the middle, you people would die of starvation. It kind of, and Frederick Bastiat talks about this in his book, is like these... the bureaucrats or the politicos out there just have this sense that if they didn't grow the food, we would somehow all die of starvation. Like, if they didn't tell us what to wear, we would all be running around naked. If they didn't, tell us to build houses and, build regulations for that stuff, we would somehow be living out in the
we
fields.
see it even today, where it's all these people that are like, well, if the government doesn't tax us and steal our money, who's going to help the poor? Who's going to help the less fortunate? Same thing, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's we never. I think it's tied to just I think it's a pathology of the person, right? So people who, and you've used this example before, it's like someone who wouldn't help a poor person themselves then projects that on the rest of the world and assumes that no one would. Also, people who lack self-discipline and self-control, like you look at these people, the Carsten guy from the Bank of International Settlements, he's a physical example of lack of self-control. And they project this own internal inability to maintain and manage their own lives on everybody else. So then they try and impose control. So they have this very low faith or belief in the intelligence, the capability, and the ingenuity of the human species in general. So they believe they're morons, everyone's a moron, so we need to build a pig pen, essentially, and cattle them all in. It's ridiculous.